Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we're kind of going to be talking a little bit more about Hobonichi season and Hobonichi Hon and Hobonichi cousin in particular. And the reason why I thought that this would be a fun topic to talk about is because the number one thing that comes up regularly in planner season and in Hobonichi season in particular is how do I use the daily pages in the Hobonichi cousin. And I wanted to spend a moment to talk about that, and this will be ideal for those of you that are brand new to planning and you're just kind of looking at the Hobonichi lineup and feeling a bit overwhelmed, and you're kind of thinking like, who would ever want to buy the Hobonichi Hon or the Hobonichi cousin as their actual planner? Like, it seems massive and there's just so much to fill out. But it's also going to be for those of you that are still on the fence and you have not yet made your decision whether or not you're going to be investing in the Hobonichi Hon or the Hobonichi cousin for 2025. So I thought that we would just kind of slow down our roll just a little bit. We don't have to constantly rush out to add to cart any of those beautiful planners just yet. Let's take a look. Let's kind of talk about it. I'm going to give you about 3 different layout suggestions that I think will be really helpful if you plan on using the Hobonichi Hon or Hobonichi cousin for 2025 for your mental health. So this will be ideal for those of you that are not only looking at inspiration of how to use the daily layout, but you're also looking at, okay, now that I know that it's going to be the planner for me, I really want to use this for my mental health and I really need some inspiration on how to use it. So let's get started. Now that we've had this long intro, I wanted to kind of first just speak on a little bit about the Hobonichi Hon first, because I'm going to just use these terms interchangeably. So if you catch me say Hobonichi cousin, you know which one I'm talking about. It is this little guy right here. I'm calling it little, but it's really not. So I actually have the Hobonichi Hon for 2024, and it is a hefty book. It is a commitment. But I wanted to kind of break a misconception that I have heard a lot of people have around this planner, because most people kind of think that this is like a full year planner, which in a way it is, but in a really big way, in my opinion anyways, I think this is more like a life book. And to be fair, if you look on Hobonichi's website, that's exactly how they are kind of marketing it. They're not really marketing this as an annual planner. They're not marketing this as like a hybrid between a planner and a journal. They're marketing this as a life book. And I think that there's a lot of confusion around this. Not only what is a life book, but the simple fact that if we're buying this as one of the many lineups that we're using for 2025, where does it all fit in? So I've had some time to reflect on this idea, and hence why I'm offering my insights and offering my guidance along the way, and you can kind of take it or leave it. But I think that the fact that we're not really looking at an actual planner, just a one set planner system, but we're looking at sort of like a hybrid between a planner and an outlet for anything and everything that you need. And because there isn't like a set template that Hobonichi really recommends of how you can use it, it's kind of up to you. So sometimes that can go really well for those of us that are more creative out there, and sometimes it can go terribly wrong because we're sort of feeling like, where is that user manual that we all kind of need in order for us to use this effectively and proficiently and kind of follow the rules and the guidelines of how this was actually made to be used? Like, where is that? So I think that most planner companies will try to give you some set of guidelines, but then also they want to leave enough flexibility for you to kind of figure it out. And so that can kind of turn one way or the other. If you're new to planning, this will absolutely freak you out because it will feel like, there's too many options and what are we doing here? But then for those of you that have been using the Hobonichi cousin for quite a few years, I think that most of you are frustrated with the simple fact that you haven't quite figured out how to give it a purpose, how to give those daily pages a purpose. How are we using these daily pages? What are they for? In my opinion, I think that we can actually use them as a way to caption certain elements about our day. You can obviously use them multiple ways, which I will show you how you can kind of play around with it. But to be really fair, I think that Hobonichi does an excellent job at giving you enough space where you can offload anything and everything that you need to into that one page. It gives you enough of a layout freedom where you can play around with it if that's what you need. But for the most part, there is some level of structure to it. Some of you need even more freedom, and then at that point, you're probably not going to invest in a Hobonichi Hon or a Hobonichi Cousin, because you're probably going to go with something like a Sterling Ink, and then you just have note pages, and you can do whatever you need to do there. But if you really enjoy the fact that these have dated daily pages, you essentially get this commitment that comes to committing to checking in with this planner every single day. And if that sounds like this really huge tight-knit commitment, and it feels really guilt, and if it feels really scary ultimately to dive into that, then this planner might not be for you. Now, here's the thing. I'm not here to actually convince you to buy the Hobonichi Hon or not. I'm here to just offer a different perspective essentially before you even buy it. So most of us, in my opinion, I think Hobonichi has designed this planner so that the monthly and the weekly work cohesively together, so that they essentially help you manage your day-to-day life. I mean, your weeklies and your monthlies, they help you kind of pre-plan and look forward and kind of see like what aspects you need to kind of pay attention to that are coming up. I also think that by the time you get to your dailies are sort of a space where you can hash out and really write out in detail some of your rituals, write out anything and everything that you need space to process. It's a perfect place to do that. And it's not, it doesn't feel restrictive, and it doesn't feel like you're going to be limited by space, which is why I think they have chosen an A5 size. So let's take a look at the three daily layouts that I think would be a fun thing to try. If you already have the Hobonichi Hon, then I challenge you to just try any of these layouts. I have, and honestly, I'm happy to report that as soon as I change the layout, it changes the way that I interacted with the planner. So do with that as you will, but if you are up for some fun, then I think that this would be a fun exercise, because it just kind of shifts you out of your little comfort zone, especially if you've been doing the same layouts on your daily pages for a while. Let me just make sure that we are in focus. I should also mention that there's also a massive fear that I have seen from many creators online, and like a lot of guilt and like a lot of like heaviness that are being attached to just having like a blank page. Sometimes you literally will not, like, I have a bunch of blank pages and it doesn't bother me. I mean, actually I have like a full section here. It, to me, just becomes an open invitation to do something different with it. And maybe in a separate video, if you guys are interested, we can kind of go over a few ideas that I have of how you can repurpose your planner, how you can reuse pages that are just available there for you to do whatever you need to do with it. But what happens with those empty pages? Like, really, what can you do with them? So in a separate video, we will talk about that. This is not the place. Right now, let's just look at the layouts. So the first layout idea that I have for you, let's talk about this first. So this page essentially mimics this page. So you will see it in how it kind of manifested for me. But basically the top section, I just kind of wrote in the day. And then I created this small subsection where we can do a brain dump. So think of a brain dump as an area where you can have like a stream of consciousness. You can just literally just start writing anything and everything, especially if you're the type of person that sometimes wake up feeling really anxious, or you're feeling really agitated, or you feel like you need to really talk out what has happened because you haven't processed it. If you process verbally, you will 100% love a brain dump, because then it just allows you to write down anything and everything that you haven't really felt like you had the space or the time to kind of write or to share it with anyone. So think of this as sort of like your best friend sitting here with a cup of coffee in her hand, just waiting for you to just say anything and everything to make sure that you don't forget. So that's what a brain dump is. At the very top section, You can write like a little, you can either add decor if you really wanted to, or you can add an intention, you can add a mantra, something uplifting, something inspirational, if you choose to do that. In here, I added like a little sticker, and then I actually added a little mantra that I wanted to kind of focus on. If you're new to using mantras, mantras are sort of like almost like a little prayer. Almost like it's like you can hum it, and it can be something that gets interwoven with your subconscious, and something that you say that you really are retraining essentially your nervous system, and you're retraining your subconscious mind to take that in as true. So this can be something that you're working on, something that is not, it's not a negative. It needs to be something positive and uplifting. And then I added a little decor here. Again, like this entire right hand side, like at least about a quarter of this, or about 1/3 of a section of the page, can be dedicated for decor if you wanted to. Then underneath that, we have sweet moments. I'm only using bullet points here, so I only wrote down 3. You can write as many as you want if you wanted to make it up to 8. However many you really wanted to capture, this would be a great place to do that. If you wanted to do, this would be a space for a picture of the day. So if you wanted to do this where you print out pictures of that day, something that stood out for you, or something that is really inspirational, or you wanted to be able to remember, this would be a place to do it. Or we can also do a doodle here, which I thought was really unique. If it's something that you wanted to work on, if you're inspired by the idea of having doodles in your planner, this would be a place to do it. Again, doodles and things like that, they take longer. So because they take longer, you're going to spend a little bit of time with it, which means that you're actually giving it time to have a more therapeutic effect. Now, moving on to the inner part of the page. So here I left a space for an agenda, which is just your basic to-do list. This will be probably the most functional part of your actual planner, of your actual layout here. Then I added a section for favorite things. So for favorite things, you can kind of write about your favorite music, your favorite video, a video that you watched, a movie that you're watching, a series that you're currently binging right now. Literally anything and everything that you kind of wanted to capture that is relevant to you and is true to you right now. And then we go into a daily reflection and how did you feel versus what happened. Again, you can kind of play around with the grid here a little bit, because maybe your sweet moments will only need to be about this much, and then the rest, this whole square, can be dedicated to reflections. But I challenge you to keep it short form and precise, but then getting to the point. So then that way you're not writing a soliloquy. You're literally just writing in more precise form of what's going on with you, and then how you actually feel about it. I've done that like in a really condensed way here. So this is sort of an example of that. And honestly, just the fact that I sub-segmented things, it kind of made it a little bit more organized and a little bit cleaner when I kind of look back on it. And it's not that it looks that different than my normal spreads. This is usually my normal spread. And if you look at it, it's pretty consistent. So this is one idea for you. Now, the other layout idea that I have for you is this one. Again, you might have a hard time seeing it, but I will walk you through each section. I didn't want to write this in with pen, mainly because I was kind of playing around with it, and I wanted to have that flexibility to kind of change things. Actually, I'm going to use a pen so that you can see it a little bit better. Okay, top section. So I see where you have like a grid here. This would be your intention of the day, or a word or a phrase. If you've seen any of my Plan With Me videos for my Hobonichi weeks, if you haven't, I will put it in the cards here so you can check that out. But usually I do create a subsection within that layout, and I call that the word of the week. A word of the week is essentially you pick a word or a phrase that will sort of become a filter for the whole week. So how you want to feel, or think of it like it's kind of similar to a mantra, but it's not a prayer. So think of a word of the week as sort of like an intention or a feeling or an idea or just something that will kind of encapsulate the theme of your week, essentially. So if there's going to be an event, then maybe there's going to be a birthday that's coming up. So then your word of the week could be birthday vibes. So that already encapsulates how that week will feel. You're probably going to be looking forward to a celebration. I don't need to expand on it. You kind of get it. Then we move on to the mantra or a quote of the day. A quote of the day would also be really ideal. Something that catches your eye, something that feels inspirational, or something that really kind of stood out for you. It would be a place where you can kind of capture it. Next little quarter section here is what came up today. So by this point, we're really looking up. We are really using this section in a way where you're doing this at the end of the day. So both of these sections, both what came up today and what part of that was uncomfortable and why. So I'm creating two subsections because I wanted to keep it very clean and precise of what came up for you today. What were the unexpected? What were the things that you didn't even think were, what were like the curveballs? So a curveball would be like a really good way of looking at it. And what part of that was uncomfortable? Like what part of what you just wrote about was like not very fun for you? What was the challenging part? And then why do you think that was challenging for you? And then what are you looking forward to tomorrow? So this whole section right down here, all the way down here, actually, I feel like I can use. So from here, all the way down here, this whole section is all about your tomorrow. And then this is all about today. And this is what's happening at the beginning of the day. So this is at the beginning of the day. You're writing down your morning practice. So within your morning practice, you can kind of just jot down some of the things that you are doing so that you feel ready for the day, you feel inspired, you feel like you can kind of tackle the day. So that you can do this as a tracker, or you can just simply use a bullet point form. I really like using bullet point form because it keeps it precise, but you can use whatever method you'd like to. If you wanted to do it as a tracker where it just keeps track of like the certain elements of your self-care, this would be a nice way to do that as well. And then you can also write down what you're planning on doing for your evening practice. And then here, this is also your daily reflections. So your daily reflections are going to be sort of like a small recap of your day, but also how did you feel about it? I'm more focused on reflecting on moments that actually matter within your day rather than just rehashing the things that were challenging. So I really focus on daily reflections on what goes well. What are the things that were really memorable about today? And then give you a little bit more space here in the middle of the page about what was the thing that was actually challenging that you wish that you could talk to someone about. And think of this book as a place where it's okay to just leave it on those pages. So this is a slightly different layout because this really focuses on all about your emotions and how you feel and what are the things that you really want to stay connected to and what are things that you really need to learn to let go of. And then you can also take this a step further. You can take this a step further to really dive deeper into how you're going to be letting go of it. So maybe you could change, I'm looking forward to tomorrow because these are the exercises that I'm doing that will help me kind of move forward. So these are all interchangeable. And then the last one that I wanted to share with you guys is this. So here, it's a little bit different of a layout. It gets a bit more structured in a way. Very top is all about, instead of writing in, Tuesday, Wednesday, like the day of the week, you're writing down the 3 things that you're looking forward to. So this one is a little bit more interactive when it comes to how you're using your planner because you're going to be using this in the morning and in the evening as well. You're using the other layouts in the morning and in the evening as well, but not nearly as much in the morning. It's primarily just tapping in the evening. Here, top 3 things that you're looking forward to. So right out of the gate, we're starting with this positivity and with the sense of anticipation. And sense of anticipation is very important if you if you want to kind of feel vibrant and positive, because then it allows you to kind of think about consciously, what are the events that are going to be coming up for you today or in the next short little while that you're really looking forward to experiencing? Because you experiencing those things generally don't last as long as the sense of anticipation. And the longer you can anticipate something and feel really positive and uplifted about it, the longer that experience can kind of extend to. So that's it about the 3 things you're looking forward to. It's, in my opinion, it is very important because it does help you to stay within that positive state. And then we're looking into, how do you want to feel? Again, we're focused on your emotions here. What emotions do you want to emit? Think of this as almost like an Instagram filter that you're putting over your images. What is the feel of it? How do you want it to feel? Do you want it to feel rustic? Do you want it to feel cozy? You get the point. Middle section is basically the bulk of the daily journaling. So this is where you get to really reflect on what's happening with you. We're really going to be writing about and reflecting about our day, what worked, what didn't work, all of that good stuff. I left a little section here for a photo, for any decor, any decoration, anything like that you wanted to add. Or you can just chuck this and literally just use any part of this middle section for the bulk of your journaling. And then the part where you have the agenda, I switched it up a little bit because instead of just like looking at it as just like a normal day-to-day to-do list, I really wanted it to be like, what are your things that you're planning on doing today? And then how do you actually feel about it? That will tell you so much about how you're running your day, and then what are things that are in alignment with you, and what are things that you're gonna have to look at some point and reflect on and see if you can kind of start shifting away from it or start delegating those tasks out, or it will catch your attention because the association with those tasks or those to-do lists are being negative. You can do this in a simplified form where you attach like a color-coded emotion to it if you really wanted to. I really like just kind of writing out the first thing that comes to your mind of really how you feel about it. If you hate doing, I don't know, like if you hate doing early morning workouts and you're dreading it, and then afterwards you regret it, you need to make a note about it, because then it's really important feedback about your actual association to those types of workouts. And maybe it's the timing that doesn't work, or the workout that doesn't work, or the fact that you're not accustomed to working out regularly. Something about that formula is not working for you. And then we have like a little mood tracker. So I left a little space here for tracking, like if you wanted to read, exercise, positive self-talk. Positive self-talk would be a really nice one to kind of track of how often did you catch yourself having a positive thought. Try it. Let me know how it works. But honestly, these are very impactful exercises. And when you're using this in a really meaningful way, it can actually have a really positive effect on your health. And then the last little bit, this is sort of like a quick little reflection. Again, using bullet point format, where what went well. So write down 2-3 things that went really well for you today, and what is something that you learned. So the what is something that you learned, it really relates to challenging and more obstacle-ridden experiences that felt really challenging in the moment. And then what was your main takeaway from that? So don't necessarily write down that I was angry, I yelled at my husband, and I lost my temper with my kids. What was your main takeaway from that? Maybe you're overextended. Maybe you didn't pre-plan your meals. Maybe you didn't communicate effectively. Like, what was the thing that you kind of took away from all of that? Because that matters so much more than how you felt in the moment. We've already talked about how you feel about your to-do list. Here, this is your opportunity to really write down your takeaway so that you don't keep repeating the same pattern over and over. And spreads like this will really highlight your own personal patterns on how you do and what you do on a regular basis. That's basically it. These are the 3 spreads that I have for you. I really hope that if you're planning on using anything for 2025 for your mental health, you would probably consider the Hobonichi Cousin or Hobonichi Hon, because it's large enough that you would probably get enough benefit out of it. You would probably have the opportunity to hash it out where you have enough space for exercises, And I think that the main benefit here is that because it is dated, you can always go back of how you've started and then measure your progress that way. Yes, you can do that in an undated notebook as well, but I think referencing certain things might be a little bit more challenging, which is where the benefit of having something like this in a dated, structured manner can be a little bit more beneficial, if that's what we're planning on using it for. Obviously, you have 1,001 different uses because really in a blank page, you have like this huge section where you can use it for whatever you need to. But I also think that if we're sitting here contemplating whether or not this is going to work for us, I think that we really need to entertain the idea that perhaps procrastination, perhaps overthinking, perhaps any elements of mental health that most of us struggle with would be a thing. It would be a beneficial thing that we can use this tool for, because really it's one of the tools that we have access to, and why not give it a job? So I would love to hear from you. Let me know if you would be willing to try any of the spread ideas that I gave you. And well, if you do, by the way, please tag me on Instagram. I'll just leave the little handle right here. And if you have found this video helpful, useful, you already know what to do. You can give it a thumbs up, you can subscribe, do all of the things. And I would love to have you here in the community. So please make sure to hit the notification bell so you get notified every single time that I release a new video. Anyway, this is all I have for you. I hope that you have enjoyed it. I cannot wait to see you in my next video. Bye.